I would like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, this is a public meeting of the Bayonne Board of Education. It is 8 p.m. the 19th day of December 2017. We're convening in the Anna J. Herbert Meeting Room. Presiding officers Joseph Broderick, President of the Bayonne Board of Education. Those in attendance include Dr. Michael A. Wanko, Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Kenneth Kopaz, Assistant Superintendent for Personnel, Dr. Gary Maida, Board Secretary, Mr. Leo J. Smith, Jr., Assistant Superintendent for Business, Dr. Dennis Degnan, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and Mitchell Pasquale, Esquire, our Board Counsel. The meeting's open to the public. I will take a roll call. Trustee Cruden.
Present.
Trustee Desmond.
Here.
Trustee Finnerty.
Here.
Trustee Garlick.
Present.
Trustee Lawande.
Here.
Trustee Munoz.
Here.
Trustee Ryan.
Here.
Vice President Wilbeck.
Here.
President Broderick.
Here. For the record, adequate written advance notice of at least 48 hours giving the time, date, and location of this meeting with the agenda was provided as follows. Notice was prominently posted in City Hall at 630 Avenue C on a bulletin board reserved for such announcements of the Board of Education. The Board Secretary sent such notice to the Jersey Journal and the Bayonne Community News. Notice was filed with the Municipal Clerk of the City of Bayonne, Mr. Robert F. Sloan.
Mr. President, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Okay, I would like to just start and say, I want to give everybody, start out with a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays, and to everybody, Happy Hanukkah. I'd like to start out by welcoming, congratulating, I should say, welcoming our two newest board members that will be coming on, Maria Velardo and Mike Alonzo. I'm sure that, with their expertise in their areas, they'll be an asset to the board, and I'm sure that everyone here at the board will do everything they can to cooperate with them and get them on board as soon as possible and make them a very important part of our situation. What they'll find out is we're a unique group that has a lot of opinions, and we like to listen to everyone's opinion, and so I'm sure they'll be very happy with us. I'd also like to thank or congratulate Chris Munoz for being reelected to the board. He'll be here for another 3 years, so you can take shots at him if you want.
I'm sure they'll come.
On a sad note, though, we're losing two of our board members tonight. This will be the last meeting, Ted Gerlich and Michael Lalonde. They started out as trustees with us, and now they ended up as very good friends. Ted, for example, I don't know of any board member ever that came to the forefront as far as funding went and with the state, and what an advocate he was, always prepared, always did his homework, knew exactly what was going on. Probably the money that we received from the state this year, although it was not nearly what we want, is probably in big, large result of what Ted has done through the years. The other person we're losing here is Mike. He sits right here on this side. He kicks me every once in a while if he can reach over. Financially, very astute. Always bringing numbers. I think he has a computer in his brain, but he was always there, always come across with important data, important numbers that made us look and decide whether we wanted to do something or not. So I'm going to miss both of them. Both promised that they would stay active with the board, and I intend to make sure that they keep their promise.
I'd like to interject with permission. How about a nice round of applause for Ted Garlick and Michael Lawande?
At this time, we'd like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Wanko.
Good evening, everyone. I can only echo what President Broderick has said. I only had a short time working with both gentlemen, but what President Broderick said was right on the mark, and I do appreciate all their hard work, and I know they will be coming back to help us out in the future. And we have a small token that we would like to give to those two gentlemen tonight, and wish them the best of health, happiness, and prosperity. Trustee Gerlich, thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you very much.
And Trustee Lawande, please accept this on our behalf. I appreciate everything they do. Thank you.
At this time, we'll go off the agenda. If anyone in the audience would like to make any comments in regards to our exiting trustees, I just ask you to come up to the microphone and
Will Lawson, 80 Garrettson Avenue. It's my pleasure to have served with Ted Gerlich and Michael Lawande on the Board of Education. I know it's a very difficult job. Ted, especially, is an outstanding gentleman, very involved in the community, served on a number of boards, and served in some difficult situations over the years. So, Ted, you've certainly extended your wisdom my way, as well as this board, and just to kind of bridge the present board to the old board, we always kind of like to thank our people when they were leaving, and you were definitely an asset. And again, somebody up there said you're a good friend. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia McGeehan, 21 Center Lane. I also want to echo the feelings of everyone here for Michael and also Teddy. Michael was one of my students, actually, at Midtown Community School many, many years ago. So I watched him grow into a mature gentleman, being very successful in his business world, and also being an asset here to the Board of Education. And one thing that he did was he always attended so many of the social events that happen when you are involved with the Board of Education, community and social events. And I would always look around, and there he was. Plus, he attended so many of the county meetings, and we sat next to one another and broke bread together. And so I want to thank you, fine representative, and I wish you the best as you move forward. And also Teddy, what can we say about Teddy? Mr. Lawson used the word wise. Yes, he is a very, very wise man. I think I can go through my whole career and not find a gentleman who is wiser than Teddy Gerlich. He is well prepared. He is always well prepared, and he comes on with such a wonderful perspective. He puts it all there. He speaks about the children, which was his highest regard at all times. What are we doing for the kids? Is it good for the children? Is it a good program? Let's weigh it. Let's see. And he questioned and he enlightened me constantly, and I know that he enlightened the board members, if they listened to him, about certain things that needed to be done on the board to make things be better. So from the bottom of my heart, Teddy, I thank you. I also thank you, Michael, for all your years of giving and giving and giving and giving, and just always putting things in the right place. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
before I get to our approval of minutes and acceptance of communications, I'd like to call up our student representative, Mr. Victor Lazario from Bayonne High School. Victor always comes to a meeting and gives us an update on what's going on campus. We like to get Victor on early because he's got homework to do.
Good evening, Board of Ed trustees. Superintendent Dr. Wanko, Assistant Superintendents Kopaz, Dr. Deckman, and Mr. Smith. I'm here to continue to pass along some interesting information from the student government to the board. As the year of 2017 is coming to a close, we will be hosting our annual event, Winterfest. Now, Winterfest is a festival where students from all grade level come together to watch a lovely Christmas movie, which we'll be watching Home Alone 2. And as well, students can enjoy a nice hot cup of hot cocoa. So far, our hot chocolate sales looks very promising. And as a reminder, the student government will be selling hot chocolate on Fridays and Mondays throughout the month of December. And as well, we'll be hoping for the continued support of these fundraisers. And I hope everyone has a lovely, happy holidays and a happy new year. Thank you.
Okay, so on our minutes, in our communications, do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second on minutes and communications. Trustee Cruden?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Finerty?
Yes.
Trustee Garrelick?
Aye.
Trustee Lawande?
Yes.
Trustee Munoz?
Yes.
Trustee Ryan?
Yes.
Vice President Wilbeck?
Yes.
President Broderick?
Yes.
Okay, next up is our accommodation. I'll read it into the record. Whereas the Bayonne Board of Education wishes to reaffirm its commitment to provide every student with a world-class scientific education. Whereas the Bayonne Board of Education encourages and supports its science students to utilize said education to compete against others in science-based fairs and meets. And whereas the following students were awarded the Lamelson MIT Excite Award in the amount of $10,000 to invent a water testing vehicle that will remotely monitor water quality for the Newark, New Jersey shipping channel. Therefore, be it resolved that this Board of Education wishes to congratulate the following students for their accomplishments. We have Mr. Cisco Espinoza on grade 12, Aram Chandra, grade 11, Samantha Rosario, grade 11, Mark Youssef, grade 11, Joseph Arrigio, grade 10, and Francis Labuti, grade 10. And this is by the Committee of the Whole.
We'd just like to welcome and just introduce who we have with us. We have our Director of Science. We have Ms. Maria Lawyer, a former Teacher of the Year and our current engineering teacher. We have our Teacher of Science in the Bayonne High School, Sandra Stamos, the 6 students. And when you're talking about 21st century skills and learning, this robotic, we thank you for coming back from Kuwait, going to MIT, securing the $10,000. So everybody now has that opportunity to test this in the Newark Bay. And again, thank you very much on behalf of Dr. Wanko. Sent forward.
Why don't you sit down?
Guys, why don't you sit in these chairs right here?
Should we sit the kids in the chairs?
Yeah, Mark,
You guys sit in the chairs.
Take a chair.
Mark, Cisco.
Feel comfortable? You can continue to move. I'll take this.
There you go.
Mark, yeah, that's good for you, Mark. Here, Cisco. You guys can have chairs.
Great jacket.
Becoming a regular up here.
We have the heads up that they'll be invited to the 8th in February. Yeah, February. Yes, we just wanted to throw a heads up.
Sure.
We're required by the grant to throw a mid-year technical review and reception. So you'll be getting a formal invitation to come see our project on February 8th. There'll be an evening reception. We're planning it in the high school. So after the first of the year, we'll be sending out a formal invitation to every member of the board to come see us. and you get to see our hopefully halfway built robot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What's that?
I was just going to suggest if the students would like to sneak out, this is the time to do it.
No, there's a big history test tomorrow.
Good, go.
I like
I
that.
understand that.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to continue with our consent agenda. We'll start with the curriculum and instruction portion. Resolutions A1 to A8, all our resolutions are on our bulletin board. Do I have a motion?
I make the motion?
And do I have a second?
I second.
So I have a motion and a second on the agenda. It's trustee Cruden,
Yes.
trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Finerty,
Yes.
trustee Garelick,
Aye.
trustee Lawande.
Yes.
Trustee Munoz.
Yes.
Trustee Ryan.
Yes.
Vice President Wilbeck.
Yes.
President Broderick.
Yes.
Next up are our resolutions for budget and finance, which would include B1 to B9. Once again, these are all on our bulletin board. Do I have a motion on the budget and finance agenda?
I will make that motion.
A motion by trustee Garelick. Is there a second?
I second.
So we have a motion and a second on the budget and finance agenda. Trustee Cruden,
Yes.
trustee Desmond,
Yes.
trustee Finerty,
Yes.
trustee Garelick,
Aye.
trustee Lawande.
Yes.
Trustee Munoz.
Yes.
Trustee Ryan.
Yes.
Vice President Wilbeck.
Yes.
President Broderick.
Yes.
Moving along.
Before you
Sure.
do, on B9, I'd just like to congratulate and thank the teachers for that $10,000 grant. That's pretty awesome.
Last year I was down at the school boards, I think, and when these guys made their presentation, it was, you could tell that like every half hour another school would make a presentation. Well, when Bayonne came on, you could just tell the judges did ask nice questions. When they came on and gave
They were
that
ready.
present, oh my God! One person said that they should patent it. They said you better get some money on. It was pretty. So they were a very impressive group. They are an impressive group, and I think statewide they're known as a very impressive group.
Next up is our personnel section of our agenda. Resolutions C1 to C12, also all on our bulletin board. Do I have a motion?
I will make that motion.
I have a motion by trustee Finerty and a second.
I second.
Second by trustee Ryan. So on that motion and second, trustee Cruden,
Yes.
trustee Desmond,
Yes.
trustee Finerty,
Yes.
trustee Garelick,
Aye.
trustee Lawande,
Yes.
trustee Munoz,
Yes.
trustee Ryan,
Yes.
Vice President Wilbeck.
Yes.
President Broderick.
Yes.
Okay. That'll take us to the non-consent portion of our agenda. And I will start with D1.
Mr. D'Angelo.
I'm sorry, Mr. D'Angelo, would you like to?
On the ice hockey item, how many coaches do we have for ice hockey?
Let's go back to that resolution, which is C4. I think the question is, we have, on C4, we have 3 interim coaches listed.
Is that, yeah, but I want to know the total number of coaches.
I think that'll change.
At this time, 5.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we'll start with D1. Whereas this Board of Education has received the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the CAFRA, and the Auditor's Management Report on the financial findings, compliance, and performance for the year ending June 30th, 2017. As part of that report, there were 3 recommendations for the general fund and the financial findings, each of which are new findings for this fiscal year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and the Auditor's Management Report are accepted. Be it further resolved that this Board of Education directs the Assistant Superintendent for Business, School Business Administrator to complete a corrective action plan to be reviewed and approved at the December 19, 2017 board meeting. That was done at our workshop. There's a second page to the CAFRA report on our bulletin board, which talks about the 3 findings and the recommendations. So on D1, do I have a motion?
I will make that motion.
And do I have a second?
I second.
Mr. D'Angelo, a question?
You said you were gonna give me a copy of both of those.
Yes, I will. Before the meeting is over, I'll go in the business office and find one.
Thank you.
So on that motion and second, Trustee Cruden,
Yes.
Trustee Desmond,
Yes.
Trustee Finerty,
Yes.
Trustee Garrett,
Aye.
Trustee Lawanda,
Yes.
Trustee Munoz,
Yes.
Trustee Ryan,
Yes.
Vice President Wilbeck,
Yes.
President Broderick.
Yes.
Moving along, D2. Just give me 1 second. I shouldn't say that. All right, I'll read D2 into the record. Whereas there is currently pending a personnel matter between the Board of Education and an employee in the Bayonne School District. Whereas a proposed settlement agreement and general release has been negotiated between counsel for the Bayonne Board of Education and that employee that will fully resolve all outstanding issues and disputes between the parties. Whereas the proposed settlement agreement will avoid the significant expenditure of time and resources on the part of the board, its administrators, and employees that would be necessary for the continuation of the pending matter. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the settlement agreement and general release and authorizes the board president to execute the written settlement agreement on behalf of the board. Be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the irrevocable resignation of that employee effective March 1st, 2018. Do I have a motion?
I will make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second that motion.
So I have a motion and a second on Resolution D2. Trustee Cruden,
Yes.
Trustee Desmond,
Yes.
Trustee Finerty,
Yes.
Trustee Garrett,
Aye.
Trustee Lawanda,
Yes.
Trustee Munoz,
Yes.
Trustee Ryan,
Yes.
Vice President Wilbeck.
Yes.
President Broderick.
Yes.
There are 2 additional resolutions. I'll start with, we'll call it D3. I will read it into the record. Whereas the interim superintendent has recommended that the Bayonne Board of Education withhold the salary increments of staff members named on Schedule B attached. Whereas the board has discussed and considered the superintendent's recommendation to withhold said staff members' increments, whereas the board agrees with the superintendent that there is a basis for the withholding of the increments, it is hereby resolved this 19th day of December 2017 that the salary increments of the staff members named on Schedule B attached be and hereby are withheld for the 2018-19 school year. And it is further resolved that the staff members' base salaries, excluding longevity, will remain at the same level as the salary the staff members earned for the 2017-18 school year during the next year that the salary guide is adjusted. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
On that motion and second on Resolution D3, Trustee Cruden,
Yes.
Trustee Desmond,
Yes.
Trustee Finerty,
Yes.
Trustee Garrett,
Aye.
Trustee Lawanda,
Yes.
Trustee Munoz,
Yes.
Trustee Ryan,
Yes.
Vice President Wilbeck,
Yes.
President Broderick.
Yes.
I have a resolution we will call D4. I'll read it into the record. Whereas on January 5th, 2017, the Bayonne Board of Education passed a resolution to engage the services of Donahue, Geronda, Doria, and Tompkins, LLC, to prepare an annual financial audit pursuant to NJSA 18:A23. Whereas on January 17th, 2017, the board executed the engagement letter, the contract, prepared by Donahue, Geronda, Doria, Tompkins, LLC. Whereas the board no longer desires to utilize the services of Donahue, Geronda, Doria, Tompkins, LLC. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bayonne Board of Education that, 1, the contract between the Bayonne Board of Education and Donahue, Geronda, Doria, and Tompkins, LLC is hereby terminated effective immediately. And 2, the board notified Donahue, Geronda, Doria, and Tompkins, LLC of said termination by providing a copy of this resolution within 10 days of the date hereof. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second on Resolution D4. Trustee Cruden?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
This contract is up in 3 weeks, and we are going out to bid tomorrow. No.
Okay, Trustee Finnerty?
Yes.
Trustee Garlick?
Absolutely no.
Trustee Lawanda?
Yes.
Trustee Munoz?
Yes.
Trustee Ryan?
Yes.
Trustee, Vice President Wilbeck?
Yes.
And President Broderick.
I just want to say that the reason I'm going to vote yes is not for the reasons that they weren't doing a good job or anything like that. It's just for the matter of, I think the board would like to go out on bid and look at other ideas, and this just gives us an earlier opportunity to do that. So in that view, I'll vote yes.
Mr. President, that is all I have for this evening, but we have a couple of questions from the audience. I'll remind the audience that we try to stay as close to 3 minutes as possible. I'll start with Commander Glenn Fora, 1618 West 9th Street.
I'm speaking on behalf of Glenn Flora.
Sure.
On behalf of Joyce Herbert, VFW Post 226 officers and members, I'm reading this letter to express our support for Dr. McGeehan and Business Administrator Leo Smith. Without Dr. McGeehan's support for our hometown veterans historical museum, it would not be here today. Since Dr. McGeehan got involved, over 9,000 students, Girl and Boy Scouts, veterans, community members, numerous nonprofit charities, and visitors from all over the country have come to visit. The point of this letter is that this Board of Education must apologize, not all the board of members because there are new ones, and some that did vote in favor of her. They must apologize to Dr. McGeehan and Leo Smith. In our country, we are to be given our due process. We are innocent until proven guilty. We do not make false allegations without our proofs. We do not humiliate, embarrass innocent people without knowing the facts. At the last November 30th, 2017 Board of Education meeting, the state auditor said, "You were informed by Dr. McGeehan and Leo Smith that something was wrong. Dr. McGeehan and Leo Smith brought it to your attention. However, this fell on dead ears. You were more interested in getting rid of Superintendent McGeehan and not interested in getting the truth. It was a witch hunt. People should remember that when you are a leader, you will have supporters and haters. What is in the best interest of our children? I see nothing but greatness in our Bayonne schools. The upset brought upon our teachers, their families, and our students was unconscionable. There was no reason for the layoffs. God bless Dr. Patricia L. McGeehan and Leo Smith. I know that people will make comments against what is written here, but that is what us veterans fought for, our freedoms of speech, and not protesting against our flag. Respect those who teach. The point is that Dr. McGeehan held meetings, that the Board of Education, held meetings during the summer. Dr. McGeehan and Mr. Leo Smith brought to the attention, again, that there was something wrong. The board said they wanted to go in a different direction, which they certainly did. I strongly believe that Dr. McGeehan and Leo Smith are due an apology from the board and the politicians. I am ashamed of how the board treated Dr. McGeehan. It is very important for our children to understand our military history, our Medal of Honors, of which we have 3 and a 4th to come, and our own hometown history of Bayonne. With that, I would just like to say, shame on some of you board of members. You owe Dr. McGeehan and Leo Smith an apology. You are guilty for blaming Dr. McGeehan and Leo Smith without due process, and you must be held accountable for your own actions for condemning Dr. McGeehan and Leo Smith wrongfully. Dr. McGeehan has been and continues to be a wholehearted, genuine, true supporter in our hometown. You may not know that Dr. McGeehan is the only superintendent who served under many administrations for the past 25 years without a blemish. Dr. McGeehan is the only person, male or female, who has served as a superintendent in the state of New Jersey for 25 years. Dr. McGeehan made our school system great. Thank you.
Next up is...
Excuse me, I just want to correct one thing. I just want to say it wasn't the state auditor that said that Dr. McGeehan and Leo brought the problem to our attention. It was me.
Okay, next up is Mr. Joe Wyatt, 301 Maple Avenue, North Plainfield, New Jersey.
Do I need to give my address again?
I read it off. You
got
good
it.
with that? Good? Yeah.
The great bard of our English language from Stratford-on-Avon has many gems in his verse. And one of the ones that I think is appropriate is the great soliloquy from Hamlet, which starts out this way. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to bear the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing in them. A lot of people think that soliloquy is about whether he's trying to commit suicide or not. But I think it's really Shakespeare's description of some of the possibilities, the dualities of how to do life. One of the ways is to hunker down. The other is to take arms against the sea of troubles, and by opposing in them. Now, I've been at these board meetings a lot. I've watched it over the years, and you know that I'm a guy who wants to take arms against the sea of troubles. And that gets me into trouble, of course. And that's my kind of my character and my training and all of that sort of stuff. But while I was here, I've been advised, well, you know, you shouldn't say things that people don't like to hear and all that. And so I hunkered down. And for a long time, I bear the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. But I'm through with that. It's BS. It's time to take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing. And what I'm disappointed with is that you don't do that. I've sat at these board meetings and everybody is acting like the last 2 years didn't exist. I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, we disrupted the lives of 260 people because of false information, a panic that ensued because we didn't find out what happened. And then then the state auditor comes along and says, by the way, it was all a sham, it was all a chimera. It didn't exist. Now I got a series of rhetorical questions. I don't expect you to answer it. I don't expect to get any answers from you. But what I want to know is, how can you control your school district when you have prima facie evidence that there's something seriously wrong with your accounting system? Your accounting system didn't tell you that. Scream at you bloody murder that there's something going on. If you have a proper accounting system and a proper budget system, you should have known a long time before the auditor brought it up that there was something amiss. Okay? So either the accounting system is antiquated. We've had double entry bookkeeping for 500 years, I think, 300 or 400 years at least, into the 1700s. And and in the modern day of electronic accounting systems, we don't have an accounting system that helps you, that permits you to run the school district and find out exactly what's going on. And then we have so either the counting system is corrupt, or the people who are using it don't know how to use it, or both.
Mr. Wyatt, I apologize, but time to wrap up.
And this is the other problem, is that your 2 and 3 minutes prevents you from having the information that you need. It's all, Pollyanna. Everything's going okay when it's not.
Thank you. Miss Linda Taylor, 185 West 25th Street.
Good evening. I'd just like to make a comment. I don't want any comments back unless you really feel the need. I can't prevent you from doing that. It's no question. This is concerning the hockey program. I'm quite concerned with how things were handled in the past with issues with the former head coach. And I was very hopeful that things were changing for the better, but now I'm not so sure. Didn't know I was walking into what I saw here this evening. Since our son was a freshman, we've had many problems with the program that we addressed with the athletic director at that time. Things were never changed, nothing done. Out of respect for our son's wishes, we did not pursue anything directly with the coach, because he knew he would face retribution, being benched, which happened when things went wrong in that negative atmosphere. Many parents have the same feelings, but they're afraid to come forward. And I'm done with being afraid to come forward because of what's going on. My son knows I'm here, and it's time to end this. They knew if they came forward with the inappropriate racial comments about kids being stupid, not getting it, you must have an IEP, not good. I could go on. And other people in authority brought this to the attention of others, and nothing done. If only some of you knew, and I welcome anyone asking me, because I'm also finished in a public forum not naming names. I respect privacy, but I'm done with the keeping names out of things, and I will give you truth, fact as I know it, not hearsay, if anyone cares to ever speak with me. The assistant coaches that remained on the bench and one that came out of retirement are incredible. Taught our kids more about hockey, respect, and discipline, which is more important to me, in 2 weeks than they learned in 3 years prior to that. The coaches assured the children that all would be fine, but the parents have never yet still been spoken to. Communication is key. It's the rumors and all of it behind closed doors that always cause problems. Now we start seeing someone new at the practices, at the games, and we're kind of getting back into the same atmosphere, the same verbal things that are going on. I coached my children, 2 boys, in baseball, basketball, soccer, alongside my husband. I'm a tough coach. I'm not one of those everybody gets a trophy. But there's a fine line between getting the best out of a kid, lighting a fire under them, and demeaning them. There needs to be something in place to evaluate the coaches. Of course, they're going to be on their best behavior, like, you get an evaluation, we all do. But perhaps something, a liaison, or an athletic director who does want to do things correctly, that the children can speak freely, or coaches that see things going on wrong can speak freely without fear of retribution, which is rampant here.
Excuse me, Ms. Taylor, I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
2 seconds.
Okay.
There's too much to cover up. Special favors still going on here at Bayonne, and it has to stop. As I said before, I'd be happy to meet with anyone because I really want to deal in specifics. I'm done with the don't drop a name, but you know who I mean, and all of that stuff. But if things were taken care of back when we did go to the people who should have taken care of it, the bigger issue of what happened, which again we won't speak about, would not have happened. So the time for protecting people that do wrong is done. Whether you know their family, whether they were good in the past, if they're having troubles now or if something happened, time to stop protecting. And it's time to promote positive, and they can be yellers and everything as long as you're going to teach and show them how to be respectable young men and women on and off the playing field.
Great,
Thank you.
Ms. Taylor, when you said the first time you reported this, do you remember when that was? Around what time frame?
Freshman year of my son.
So what?
I reported it too.
So what year is that?
2016, 15, 16 and 15.
I can give you the exact details.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Next up, Mr. Will Lawson, 80 Garrison Avenue.
I think he left.
Will's on? Okay. How about, is it Lewis Rowan? Yes. 74 Lexington Avenue.
I come here in support of the doctor. This whole situation I take personally. I'm a Navy veteran of Korean War. My uncle is a Navy veteran of World War II. The Bayonne High School, we both went in service at 17. The Bayonne High School awarded us both high school diplomas because we're in the military during wartime, so we had to leave school and we never received it. My uncle is very happy. In the Navy, they have a motto. It's called honor, commitment, and service. Dr. Guillen showed all that. I raised 10 kids in Bayonne. I was born here. I have 2 kids, 2 sons of mine, and a grandson. I work for the city. By this corruption, what I call it, one of them got laid off. He said, "Grandpa, what should I do?" I said, "Son, don't go look for another job. Be faithful. I'm proud of you. Graduated Bayonne High School. You stay in the city. You try to work in the city. You do things honorable. Don't get stuck on unemployment because that makes you lazy. We are a family of workers. We'll hold 2 jobs at Nestle. This is going to pass." But you see, it affects a lot of people. Maybe the meeting took 3 minutes, just like this is my speech. And you went 3 minutes, okay, blame it on this one. Let's next on the agenda. That's no way to run a business. I ran a business in Bayonne. I had my own company. We had lawyers, attorneys, everybody worked, and everything won. My lawyers and my attorney and my accountant got paid $150 an hour when I first started. Here's a lady that dedicated her life. What happens to her affects me because it affects my family. She is part of family to me. And I'm thankful that I was born in Bayonne. I'm thankful that I raised my kids in Bayonne. I'm thankful that I went to the United States Navy to serve from Bayonne. I'm thanking the awards that I got from the county for my service. This lady deserves better, and I hope that you reconsider and do apologize. Thank you.
Next up, Barbara Hopkins, 74 Lexington Avenue.
Sorry, I'm a little slow. I'll try to speak. Asthma, sorry. I'm also to comment on Dr. Patricia McGeehan. She was a constant service also to the VFW, to the students of this community, to the teachers, and many people that she never looked to get attention for. She shared many time listening, insights, and assistance for various school programs. She participated in many daily meetings, every day, day and night. She never missed meetings. I'm sure she's organized, unlike me. Not so organized. Sorry with this conversation. I wasn't prepared, sorry. She's very welcome at Joyce Herbert, VFW 226, located 16 West 9th Street, that I try to volunteer there and help out for the veterans, but she was always on top of things. She was always taking care of things. She was always looking out for the students. So whatever anything that anyone deserves as superintendent, she surely did for all the years of service she did. And may everybody have a happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Gail Folger. No? Ms. Folger, just please give your address for our recorder.
6 West Court, Westfield, New Jersey. I wasn't planning on speaking, but hearing the comments that I've heard so far, I feel compelled to say something. There should be hundreds of people here right now honoring Dr. McGeehan. There should be hundreds of people for the service that she put in, 48 years to the Board of Ed, 48 years of the kind of commitment that she put in without a blemish. I mean, and the day and the night, this town owes her something major, and it's called an apology. It really is. She went out in a very uncomplimentary way, and I just feel that there should be hundreds of people here honoring her, and that's all I have to say.
Next up, Ronnie Pike, 575 Avenue A. No? Yep.
She's my partner in crime. Okay, I'm Ronnie Pike. I don't have anything written here. I'm just going to speak from my heart, and I'm just going to say, most of you know me. I taught for over 28 years in the Bayonne public school system. I worked under Dr. McGeehan for many years. I have two simple questions. One is, I remember last year that the children protested from the high school about the whole thing about, they were so worried about the money and that their teachers wouldn't get the contract. I just want to know, did you ever speak to the children in an auditorium and tell them what happened? Because did anybody have anything in the auditorium for the students? Was there ever anything?
I believe that was done. I mean, and it was done by classes, freshmen, altogether sophomores, because couldn't get the entire school together.
Yeah,
But I
and
believe
you
it
spoke
was.
to each class and said that she wasn't, what you say, guilty of. Most people, I have to tell you, as a taxpayer living in Bayonne, this is what I go through. My neighbors come up to me and they're like, hey, Dr. McGeehan, did you ever ask her where the money is? They still think that. They still think she's guilty, okay? That's all I'm saying is that her and Mr. Smith, they always keep talking about it. So I just keep thinking that you have to clear that up. You have to put something in the front of the paper to let them know she's not guilty of any of this. But we all know that here. But the majority of the people out there, you know, some of them read the paper, some of them are just listening at the corner shop, the coffee shop. You have to put it out there. It was, okay? Now, I'm going to, you know, after this, I want to make an appointment to see you personally, because I personally had a problem with my job.
Please, no names, please.
Okay, all right. I personally had a problem with the accountant. Could I say the accountant? Okay.
Yes.
So I had many years ago. I know my 3 minutes is almost up. So I'm going to do that privately before I put it out there. So it's not his first strike or the accountant's first strike. And unfortunately, you know, we can't know what everybody's doing. I know you're going to say, well, that was on her watch. Well, he was highly recommended, no name, by somebody, okay? He was. And unfortunately, he had, if I was hired as a teacher, when I was hired, I had a nice clean record, you know, whatever. But no one, I guess, figured out he had a problem in another school district, and he's now working for another school district. So I really have a hard time with that because I worked so hard and just doing my job. So I don't understand any of that. And most people don't, but most people don't know about that. So I think if you're going to get a scapegoat or whatever you want to say, it's got to be that person and not Dr. McGeehan, not Leo Smith, who did everything and loved the kids. Love the kids. Put the kids first, the students, before anybody else. Not many people do that, and I'm telling you that. That's all I'm going to say, all right? All right, so you owe her a public apology. All right.
Mr. D'Angelo? No, thank you. My final card, Dr. Patricia L. McGeehan, 21 Center Lane.
Good evening, Patricia McGeehan, 21 Central Lane, Bayonne. I know there is a 3-minute limit. I hope there would be an exception to that this evening for me, because I have been silenced by this board for a year. So now it's my time to speak up. And if I can't finish, I will come back in January and February and March and April and May. So if you want to limit that 3 minutes. I've had the good fortune to be an employee of the Bayonne Board of Education for 48 and a half years. 14 and a half years as a teacher, 17 years as a principal, and 17 years as the first woman superintendent in this district. During my tenure, the district reached state and national acclaim due to an exceptional team of central office administration, principals, vice principals, directors, teachers, and support staff. I'm very proud of the awards, the achievements, the improvement of facilities, and most importantly, the growth and changes that have taken place in this district from the traditional education in 2000 to the cutting edge of technology, innovation, and career and college education of the 21st century for our almost 10,000 students. As the largest employer of the city of Bayonne, the job of the CEO, the Chief Educational Officer, was very challenging, but I enjoyed and loved it every day. I was well aware of the responsibilities of a superintendent as cited in 18A, as I was told by a board member, to oversee curriculum, personnel, operations, and finances. I took that responsibility very seriously every day, 365 days a year for the past 17 years. I never shirked that responsibility, and my door was always open for administrators, teachers, students, city officials, and the community at large. In my tenure, I monitored $75 million in school building construction and renovation and the building of a Resco school. How did I monitor that? Did I read the blueprints to see if each beam was erected correctly, safely? Did I follow specs on electrical wiring? No, of course not. I depended on the superintendent of buildings and grounds, the BA, the certified clerk of the works, architects and engineers who were paid to do that as experienced and licensed professionals, and I trusted them to do their jobs efficiently. The same applies to the finances of the Bayonne Board of Education. Did I check to see if budget transfers were transacted properly, appropriate reporting of deadlines were met, and accounting of budget procedures were followed? No, of course not. I depended on the business office, the BA, and in particular, the school business accountant. Why? Because it was his job as a certified BA, CPA, and accountant, and he was experienced and licensed, and I trusted him for his financial skills and his professionalism. However, 1 year ago, November 20th, in that area, Mr. Smith rushed into my office with the results of the CAFRA Comprehensive Annual Finance Report of 2016 with a perceived budget of $2.3 million deficit. We were both shocked and totally devastated. My first reaction was, why didn't a licensed certified accountant let us know that we were in trouble? That was his only job, every day for 12 months a year. Why didn't he share that bleak picture in June when he started to reconcile the books? In April, to cover the absence of Mr. Smith, who was on sick leave, the board appointed the accountant as acting BA, and he continued as also the accountant, acting business administrator, I'm sorry. The accountant attended all financial meetings, board workshops, closed sessions, open meetings in the capacity of the SBA and the accountant. In that role, he did not inform me or the board of any financial problems, or did he give any financial forecasts of future concerns. Thus, 2016-17 programs commenced, for example, the state-mandated expansion of inclusion coverage in the district, which involved the hiring of 16 special ed teachers and also the expansion of the ESL program to a tune of about $1.5 million. If I was ever informed that we didn't have the money, I certainly would never have thought to recommend hiring these teachers. I would have called the state and told the state that this is a crazy mandate. We will not use local funding for this because we do not have it. So back to November of 2016, Mr. Smith immediately notified the board of finance on the Thanksgiving Friday. We had a meeting. I followed up with another meeting with the finance department. After discussing the findings of the CAFRA with the group, it was revealed that financial report deadlines were not met, appropriate transfers were not completed. I questioned the accountant as to his delinquency, his falsification of documents, and his lack of fiduciary responsibility. He admitted to all. As a result, Mr. Smith sent a memo to the board reporting the accountant's lack of responsibility. At the board meeting in closed session on December 14th, I discussed the findings with the board as to the serious violation by the accountant of standard school procedures and his lack of disclosure of our financial situation regarding existing staff programs, etc. I made a recommendation that his employment be severed. The accountant was right. However, for whatever reason, the board chose not to speak to him, question him, or send him a memo or a disciplinary letter. Even though I had the proof and his admission of guilt in front of his colleagues, the BA, the school bookkeeper, and the board secretary, the board was silenced and didn't admit to the root of the problem. He continued in his position and resigned January 31st for another school accounting position. However, I was right, and I met with the board, and I was told it was my responsibility and blamed for not checking the books. This was misplaced blame, and I was the cause of a deficit, and we all know that never even existed. Since the board was silent and didn't admit to the initial root problem, the secretive blame, the public became festered and upset. It ran into the school community, teachers, administrators, students, parents, the press, and again, central office administration, particularly the superintendent and the BA, Mr. Smith, which led to public and student misperception that money was missing and stolen. I don't think any of you had the opportunity to be on Broadway and have students raise their window down and say, "Hey, Dr. McGeehan, where you going, spending some of our money?" As a result, students walked out in protest, and raucous blame game board meetings continued, and you all know because you all went through it. At the outset, the board never gave answers to the public, never identified the initial root of the problem, the falsification of records, and the lack of responsibility of the accountant. In June 2017, I met with the state auditors, and I shared the reports with them, the same report that I shared with the board and the information about the accountant's inefficiencies. Due to the perceived deficit, which we all know per the state audit, there really isn't any deficit. But at the December meeting, the board was given options by central office and the administrative team of principals, which included the vice principals, directors, and supervisors, to close the perceived deficit gap. The board ignored any of our suggestions for a small target layoff and decided to do a wholesale layoff of well over 250 staff members, which I strongly objected to in a closed session, also in public session, and I did not recommend numerous times, which led to, as we all know, staff resignations, low staff morale, tremendous impact on student demeanor, general district devastation, loss of confidence in administration, and questionable board governance and leadership. As we are aware now, 3 state auditors were in the district for 3 months. for 8 months and completed their findings. After all the blame game and inferences and the layoffs, Mr. Stephen Ellis, State Auditor, made a presentation at the last board meeting and stated that the Board of Education was never in a deficit and still aren't, and there was no criminal activity. Errors in accounting procedures was the base of the findings. And whose responsibility was that? It was the accountant. Ironically, that's what I told the board over 1 year ago. And now that is validated by a team of state auditors, but the board failed to believe me, did not cast the blame where it belonged on the accountant, and did not accept my recommendation for his dismissal. In due respect, and I'm going to say the quote that President Broderick said at the last meeting. He said, "The person who is responsible is not even in the room." Is that what you said, Mr. Broderick? Yes. Mr. Smith was on the stage. I was sitting in the audience. So I believe that says that Mr. Broderick now believes that we were not responsible. Is that so? If you don't choose to answer, don't choose to answer.
If you want me to, I'd be glad to. I don't think at any time I ever said that any of those people were the problem. I don't remember making ever a statement that would have said that, it was somebody's fault or not. All we dealt with basically was what our accountants, and our new accountant told us our financial situation was. Now, did we always agree on things? No, as opposed to how to fix it or settle it, that's possibly true, but I don't remember ever saying anything other than I thought you were a very hard worker, been to more things than probably anybody in the state would have been to, did a great job. So I don't know where it came out that, people were saying that we personally blamed somebody. I don't think that was ever the case. I actually remember a couple of times stating here that I thought you got a pretty bad rap from the newspapers, from the city, as far as, taking shots and being probably the superintendent. You're the person they saw. But I thought that, I never once, and I don't think anyone up there ever once thought that that was your fault at all. So
it's the silence that happened in the beginning that led to the perception of everybody in this city that this is what happened. So just in closing, being a strong believer in the fact that we are underfunded in comparison to other districts in Hudson County and the state, I campaigned, I complained, and I even cried for almost a decade for fair funding. Mr. Smith and I as a team spoke at an assembly hearing in Hackensack and Senate hearings in Newark, along with Mayor Fulop, Mayor Baraka, who were there fighting for their district students. Nobody from our town was fighting for the district students except Mr. Smith and myself. Our theme was Bayonne Kids Count Too. There were board members there too, by the way. While this budget unrest was going on, while all this was going on, we were lucky to have a meeting set up to go down to Trenton to meet with Speaker Prieto about our problems that we're having with our ROD grant transfer. Well, that was disapproved and denied. But at that meeting, he was there, Assemblyman Charbellotti, Commissioner Harrington. So I took advantage of that opportunity, and I was the only one that spoke up. Mr. Broderick was there, Board Secretary was there, Central Office, and our attorney, Mitch Pasquale. And I said to the Speaker and spoke up aggressively, because this is how much I care about this district, regarding, and I was on my way out, folks, about the underfunding that we had for almost a decade. I pleaded with him to be sure that Bayonne Kids Counted Too, and the new money for education allocation. To continue that campaign, I initiated a tweet with the governor regarding our underfunding, SOS, #Bayonne1, Save Our Schools. And our students and our teachers and our administrators all stood up and they tweeted asking for help. Thousands and thousands of tweets went out to the governor and state officials. So as a result of our campaigning, this district now has received an increase in funding of $2.8 million for this school year. Plus the end of the school year, I'm happy to say that we had a surplus of 1.2. There was no deficit at the end of my tenure. I'm also glad to say that we are concluding here, and I hope that someone in this room will take on the fight and go down to Trenton and continue to let everyone know that this district is severely underfunded. And if any of you would only wake up and realize that that is the real problem here. And the only reason why we were able to do what we did is because we did it so efficiently. We pay our teachers under for $20 an hour. Mr. D'Angelo's going to like to hear that. But we do. And they do the work because they love this district. And that is the reason why we have been so successful in this district. Everybody marvels at what we were able to do with so little. So somebody must stand up and move forward and fight for this district and not just sit there and criticize people that are in administration. Thank you very, very much for extending the time. I certainly appreciate it. And I think now maybe this might be the first night that I will be able to sleep in a year. Thank you.
Broderick, that is all the questions I've got from the audience. You could address your comment to the chair.
Dr. McGeehan, this is a complaint. I do not, I do not understand why Dr. McGeehan was given 15 minutes.
Oh, you gotta be kidding.
You gave her an extension without any hesitation, okay?
She is the former superintendent, excuse me, sir. She's the former superintendent of the Bayonne Public Schools, and she deserves that respect. That's it.
I second that motion.
President Broderick.
Thank you.
I have something.
We do
We'll let Ed go first.
You go first.
No, you go first. I think it's.
I just want to.
We are not finished.
We're not finished.
Excuse me, folks. We're not finished. Mr. Garrett? Sorry.
Mr. Broderick?
Mr. Broderick?
First of all, this, as was mentioned earlier, is my last meeting on the Bayonne Board of Education. About a week and a half ago, I retired from the Bayonne Planning Board. And I just want to say it's a privilege and an honor to serve the city of Bayonne in the various positions I've had. I've served with President Broderick. I've also served with President Lawson, both fine people. I've also served with Dr. Patricia McGeehan. And I think at the risk of offending the late Miss Swiney, who was my Latin teacher in the 9th grade, the saying is res ipso loquitur. Her record, her achievements, her accomplishments speak for themselves. I also had the privilege of working with administrators, the finest administrators you could find in any district. Mr. Ken Kopaz, Mr. Dennis Degnan, and also Mr. Leo Smith. We also have all of the directors, a fine team of directors in this district, as well as very creative and innovative principals. We have VPs, and of course, the hardworking teachers that every day creatively try to teach our children the very best in education. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention one other group that is very, very conducive to a learning environment. And I've gone to many different events at various schools over the last 4 years. And while everybody knows that the average age of every one of our buildings is about 90 years old, it's really a pleasure to walk in to a building that is absolutely clean, spotless, graffiti-free, and conducive to learning. And that's all done by a custodial and repairman that work diligently every day to make sure the environment is safe for our children. One of the other things I wanted to mention, I know we had a couple of veterans that came up here and it just triggered my mind. One of the other events that was innovated by Dr. McGeehan is the flags that we planted every year for the heroes that served the armed forces in this country. Being a veteran, as well as Trustee Wilbeck on this board, I certainly appreciate the concern and the efforts that goes into the veterans and the respect that they deserve. This year we honored a veteran that unselfishly and bravely gave up every one of their tomorrows so that we can enjoy all of our todays. And that says volumes about the type of character and the type of consideration of Dr. McGeehan. The other thing I wanted to mention, and Dr. McGeehan and a number of people have covered that today, is the difference between opinions and facts. Well, to sum it up by my other teacher that I remember from the 9th grade, Miss Clark, she, when we were discussing this many years ago, said, well, facts are the enemy of opinion. And the facts are that this school district has had 2 audits, state audits, forensic audits over the last 3 or 4 years that I've been here. Each one of the audits had, at the beginning, the pointy finger of indignation from people in the city about wrongdoing from a financial standpoint. However, the results of every one of those audits was there was no mismanagement, there was no fraud, there was no directing of money for personal use. It was inappropriate accounting procedures where a person ultimately lost their job. And in the first audit, you may recall, because I'm going down memory lane, there was an argument that this district owed the city of Bayonne $12 million. And the result of that audit was we didn't have appropriate interlocal agreements in place that memorialized the transfer of money. But the audit showed that there was no money owed to the city other than pending transactions that eventually the city got. So people see in the newspaper, the city is owed $12 million, or there's $2 million missing, or perhaps on the front page, if my memory serves me correctly, the case was referred to the county prosecutor for action. Well, where does Ms. McGeehan go? What page in a newspaper does she go to get her reputation back? Where? And the other thing that was mentioned is what's the real root cause of the problem? The problem is funding. Since 2009, and I see a smirk on Mr. D'Angelo, but since 2009, this district has been shortchanged $116 million.
On the backs of the teachers.
Well, whatever. We didn't get the money.
Not on the backs of the administration, not on the backs of the superintendent, not on the backs of the principals, on the backs of the teachers. When you
The fact is,
when the books were screwed up.
Excuse me.
I'm talking. The fact, the undeniable, unrefutable fact is this district is missing from the state of New Jersey $116 million. In fact, this year, we got an extra $2.5 or $2.8 million from the state because of the hounding of Dr. McGee and other board members that were bringing this up. The $2.7 million that we got, in perspective, and to try and use an analogy or a metaphor, was the equivalent of somebody saying, we want to sweeten the St. Lawrence waterway by throwing 2 cups of sugar into Niagara Falls. That's how much money we got from the state. And she's right. Where are the local politicians fighting for Bayonne? Because if we don't get our city officials fighting for the money, and if we don't get our elected state officials fighting for the money in Trenton, guess who makes up the difference? The taxpayers. That's the way the system works, and it's unfair. And to add insult to injury, if you do a little research, there is a New Jersey State website on school funding. And you'll find, because of loopholes in the system, charge schools funding because they are in a high funding area from the state, either a Jersey City or a Newark or a Camden. They wind up with more money, more state funding per pupil than the city of Bayonne. That's not right. Bayonne deserves better, and we deserve more to fight. And you know what? I think I've said enough. I just want to close, if I could find my card here, that in closing, I only wish the board the greatest success in the coming years. And Dr. Wanko, I only wish you the very, very best of successes. You're following an extremely strong leader. I want to say God bless each and every one of you, and may God bless the United States of America forever. Thank you.
Trustee Gawande, like to say something?
Well, today is also my last meeting. Yeah. A lot of people know me as actually the youngest trustee that ever served on the Bayonne Board of Education. I had the privilege on sitting on a lot of committees. I was in the superintendent evaluation where Dr. McGee was the superintendent, and she had a lot of great reviews. I also sat on building and grounds, I sat on the finance, and I was also the lead in negotiation where we helped settle 2 teachers' contracts. What a lot of people don't know about me also is that I'm a product of Bayonne. I actually grew up in Bayonne and I graduated from Woodrow Wilson Elementary School. I played chess for Woodrow Wilson. We were able to win 2nd place in the state first year that the state goes to, the Woodrow Wilson goes to the chess team in the state. Well, sorry. First year that the school district goes to the state and we won 2nd place in the state. Until now, we still won 2nd place. That was the maximum. I also went to Bayonne High School. I played football, wrestling. I did boxing for PAL. I did tennis. We won 4 consecutive years of tennis and then a championship, county championship. Then I ended up going to NJT and I played tennis for college. From being on the board here, I had the privilege of being a part of an appointed board and also an elected board. And I got to see both sides and I got to see the positives and negatives, and both boards were amazing. There was nothing negative, to tell the truth, about either side. Everybody stood up for what they believed in, and then they really fought for the people, for the town, and for the students. The most important thing that I got out of being here on the board is people think that the wealthiest person in the room is the person that has the most money, but that's not true. That's not the truth. I think the wealthiest person is the person that has the most relationships and most friends. And being on this board, I extended my family. I consider every single one of you as my family. And thank you so much. And it was an honor serving with you guys. And I wish you the best. Thank you.
I'm going to apologize to Dr. McGeehan. I also want to say that we do not all share the same opinions, and there were 4 of us who did not agree with the mass layoffs, because we did believe that there was another approach, and we were in the minority. That being said, I hope that Mikal finds his way to maybe planning or zoning somewhere where his talents can grow and he can be appreciated and he stays involved in the community. And I'm going to miss the sparring. And to my friend Ted Gerlich, I had the privilege of serving my very first time, now I'm giving away age, on the board. Gary was president, and Phyllis, I think, was president too, but I served with Phyllis and Gary. And I was a newbie, that's for sure, and I learned plenty. But I think what I valued most was the friendship, and I am going to miss your wisdom, your input, the wealth of knowledge, voice of reason, and I wish you well and everything, but I have a feeling I'll be staying in touch. God bless you.
Thank you. Not hearing any other comments, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by trustee Munoz, is there a second? Second by trustee Desmond. A motion and a second to adjourn the public meeting. Trustee Cruden?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Finnerty?
Yes.
Trustee Gerlich?
Aye.
Trustee Lawande?
Yes.
Trustee Munoz?
Yes.
Trustee Ryan?
Yes.
Vice President Wilbeck?
Yes.
President Broderick?
Yes.
It is 9:26. The board will not return. Trustees, we have some business.